Gaffer, speaking a couple of days after our first win of the season, I imagine the mood in training's been pretty positive this week.
Yeah, we changed the schedule a little bit as well, so we're in on the Wednesday, and I think the fact that the sun was shining and we'd got us first 3 points, there was a good mood in the camp, a few tired bodies still, of course, but overall a nice place to come into work, and that's what you want all the time. We know that's not always the case, but pleased for the players because the hard work that you put in through pre-season, and I think the league performances have been pretty good so far. So I had to wait for that third league game to get that victory, but well deserved in my eyes, albeit, like I said, I thought we'd perhaps played slightly better in the previous game, but I'll take that. We know that it's the points that we need, and for everyone connected with the club, it's nice when you get that first win, because start of every season, the longer it goes, kind of feelings, moods can change very quickly. So it's nice that we got that win. And
you made a few changes to your team on the day. Danny Amos and Gav Holohan especially came in, and they looked like they took a bit of the chance, didn't they? They played pretty strongly.
Yeah, look, nothing's ever personal with any of the players, and it was a case of I wanted to freshen the team up. I'd done that the previous week in the cup against who we were playing tomorrow in Mansfield, and that was probably the opposite. That didn't work, and maybe there's reasons for that, and I think I've obviously reflected on that and look at it and think there is, but each time, whatever team's picked, I think we've got a squad of first team players realistically. So someone might find themselves out of the team, but they're certainly not reserves or players that are just making the numbers up in the squad. They can all play, and have done. So I think it's always going to be a strong team. It's just whether it performs ultimately. You try and help from a tactical point of view, but in the main, without just chucking it all aside, it is on the players when they cross that white line, and we've had that conversation quite a few times already this season, and certainly the players that have been with me for a little while, we've had that conversation many times, but the lads did well. They contributed to the team performance, but that's the biggest thing. It's the team. It's not simply about individuals, it's how the team functions. There was Arthur as well that came into that. I think he started to show what he's capable of, and again I think with Arthur in particular, a little bit of patience, give people a fair crack at a whip. He joined us right at the end of pre-season, so he's understandably he's not going to be absolutely flying yet, but I think again he started to show what he can do.
I remember you fielding some questions in interviews towards the end of pre-season, at the start of the season, about what's your best line-up, and you were repeatedly saying it's a squad game. I think Tuesday's game shows that, doesn't it?
Of course, and I think there's a manager in the Premier League who's went very close to winning it, as sort of a bit like we've had in terms of goalkeepers, the question, and I think his answers around there's no number ones in any position, and that's, I think, the right way to go about it. That's something I certainly agree with. Naturally, you've got players that certainly fans, and even as a manager, you think if they're absolutely at the top of their game and are fit and available, they've got maybe a slightly better chance than some others to being there on a regular basis. But ultimately, that's form. That's knowing everything's right, personal lives, fitness-wise. There are lots and lots of things that go into it, and ultimately that's why I believe you need a squad. We also looked at a couple of clubs in our league that perhaps haven't made too many changes to the lineup in the cup game, for example, and I think already I can see that that's had an impact for some of these teams. We did that. It didn't work on the night, but I think as a result, we might not have got the result we wanted, but a performance at Notts County, and then looked, I think, quite energetic again the other night. And that's what it's about. It's lots of challenges, and we all have our own ideas and ways to go about it, but I think I can justify certainly in my own mind of the decisions that I've made today, and hopefully they'll reap the rewards as we move forward.
It's the second home league game we've had, unbeaten in those 2 clean sheets. How keen are you to have the home form as sort of the bedrock of the campaign?
I want it to be a good home and away, Joe, because then that means you've got a great chance of being successful. But I know last season there was a bit made about how good his away form was, and I think in the end it was about even, albeit strangely you'd say that that's still better because it's away from home. I've said before, we won't approach things differently home and away. There might be certain places you go to or certain moments in games you have to adopt, a certain way and an approach. But in the main, we're trying to win games of football. And I've said before, mate, I'm not sure everyone's like that, but for me, that's how I want my team to be. I don't want to send mixed messages out. I don't want them to send or go out into a game thinking, oh, if we get a point today, that's a good point. Some points are good, of course they are. But we want to try and win, whether it's home or away. And I've spoke with some fans on this, the ones that travel away from home, and the ones that I spoke to at least said, if anything, if they were really, really pushed, they'd probably rather win away from home. So in that side, we can't win, can we? But yeah, just naturally, people look and expect you to have better home form than away.
And early in this campaign, you've said repeatedly that the first aim is to get the first 3 points. In the back end of last season, the main goal was get to 50 as soon as possible.
Yeah.
What's your next big aim for this campaign now you've chalked off the first 3?
I think there's always lots of sort of mini targets as you go along. So, trying to get back-to-back wins, for example. We've got that opportunity against Mansfield. Then it'll be the first away victory. And then as you progress, there'll be lots of little markers that you try and get to. And, once the league table takes some kind of shape, which it's certainly not now, certainly won't be after Saturday, you probably look where you are and then I would imagine try and sort of creep up that table a little bit more. And yeah, so lots of things along the way. 50 points is always a great marker, and how quickly you can get there gives you an idea of what's remaining in terms of what are your chances. So you're pretty certain that you've secured your place in the division, which again isn't very glamorous, and we certainly have got a lot higher hopes and ambitions than that, but it's still a nice sort of figure to get to. Like I said, the quicker you get there and the more points that are left to play for, then you can start looking at some much better targets, and that will be the aim.
On Saturday, looking at the Mansfield game, they're without Alfie Kilgore, definitely. He's out for the season after he played in the cup game we had, but they've got a depth in that squad and it'll be a good test, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, Nigel lost 4 players, I think it was, the other night, and that's tough for anyone. I'm sure that those players will be missed, but Kilgore, as you said, wish him a speedy recovery. It was a horrible injury. Watch the game back and you see it. It's not very nice. You can almost feel the pain yourself watching it. It's bad news for them, and it will have an impact. At the same time, what I would say, the team that he still had out there and what he had, I'm like looking and thinking, that's really, really strong still. George Maris comes on, he gets a winning goal, the equaliser, and people like Ollie Clark that come on, Will Swan, he had to make some adjustment, and I'm sure he'll be looking to bring someone in, whether that's before we play them, we'll wait and see. But it shows a strength in depth certainly. At the same time, he's going to wish that he has all these players available, because I think that certainly impacted them last season, and had they kept certain players fit, I'm sure they would have been in the playoffs, and who knows, might not have been in our division. So the task, in my view, doesn't get any easier. I think what it is doing is just testing, the strength of the squad overall. But as I've just touched on, still lots of very good players there.
We've obviously touched on a few of their injuries there. Have we picked up any from Tuesday, or are you still with the same squad you had then?
No, we should have the same squad available, and that's nice from my point of view. No one back, which we weren't expecting anyway. But yeah, I think it'll be the same group of players to select from.